that Bill Clinton, with his executive order, January 19, 1996, number 12,986, began the precedent to sign over our national treasures to international control. Yes, this is an international biosphere and World Heritage Site. And guess who controls those? The United Nations. The United Nations is nothing more than a front group for international banks based in Europe and in America. They care nothing about the environment. They care about using it as an excuse to tell you how you can use the environment, to get you used to listening to what they say and what you can do and what you can use. I'm sure y'all have all heard they're planning to restrict cars to the Grand Canyon and bring buses in quite soon. Well, I'm here during peak season at the end of the summer, and I don't see any problem with Americans coming to the Grand Canyon. They're paying exorbitant prices of $20 a car. Wake up and understand that large corporations think in a long-term game. They understand that if they can restrict use to this place and get international control in here, then 10, 20 years down the road, they could start construction and building, which they're already doing, by the way. So we are for real conservation, but we are against organized crime cliques that call themselves international bankers and elite corporations coming in and buying off your politicians like Bill Clinton, who is an incredible traitor to this country, who then signs over promptly our rights to use and to maintain our natural wonders. There's a lot of money in controlling these places. A lot of people come and visit them. Just cut through their lies, and it's sterling simple exactly what's happening. Now let's go talk to some park rangers and other individuals, perhaps some of the tourists here, and see if they've even heard of this terrible crime that's being committed against the American people. This giant land grab. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm conducting a scientific experiment. I want to ask y'all if y'all know about Executive Order signed January 19th, 1996 by President Bill Clinton, number 12,986, which designated this as a World Heritage Site under UNESCO, a corporation of the United Nations. None of you heard about this in the mainstream media. None of you heard about it. Nobody's heard about this, have you? Well, they took down the signs in most parks because there was a furor about 3 days after they put up the United Nations signs. No one's heard about it, huh? Well, see, that's how fascism breeds. The environmentalist movement is now nothing but an arm of corrupt international banks and corporations. They're using it as an excuse for land grabs all over the entire world. Remember this and check it out. Executive Order. Call the Interior Department. Call Bruce Babbitt. Executive Order 12,986. It's important. The modern bureaus of propaganda keep this from you.
No sooner had I turned away that some of the crowd began to laugh and call me a kook. I guess they won't take the time to check out the Executive Order 12,986. I guess they don't believe it unless they hear it from Peter Jennings' mouth. At the Grand Canyon Main Visitor Center, we talked to some of the people at the front desk, and they politely said, yes, we've heard about the UN, but we're not quite sure what's going on. There was some rigmarole, some protest about the UN signs, so they have been moved in some of the national parks. And then later, we got a little visit from the head honchos who were quite rude. Unfortunately, they wouldn't let us take our cameras behind closed doors, where I was threatened with arrest.
Is there anybody that I can, who will just tell me the same thing you did, but just where I can have a mic on and things?
Well, we have a public affairs officer right here.
Well, you heard me just ask him to just politely talk to a public affairs officer. We were sitting down for about 10 minutes with our cameras off and barely got a shot of her. That's all we had to freeze it. We only got about a half a second of her. She was very rude and drugged me to the back and threatened to arrest me for dare to ask questions. Was I some type of terrorist? And you should have seen the monster they had in the back with us. This is all part of America.
It's flat out corruption. You own and control these public lands. Not the federal government and not their international lackey friends controlled by foreign corrupt banks. End of story. We've now reached the north entrance of Yellowstone National Park here in Montana. And let's just read what the important inscription at the front of this old gate reads. For the benefit and the enjoyment of the people, created by an act of Congress, March 1st, 1872.
We dropped by the main visitor center, and they sent us over to the main administration building. We simply wanted to ask what's going on with the United Nations in our parks.
Hey, how you doing?
Fine, how are you?
Oh, I saw somebody look just like you. We're going all over the country doing independent film, and we already talked to Bruce Pavitt's office, and we just wanted to ask questions about the biosphere designation.
I'll have to, you're filming? Well, do you have a filming permit?
Oh, there's a permit?
Yes.
I'm here making my own documentary.
Could you turn off your camera?
I just want to reiterate the fact that everyone was very polite at most of the parks, but once you would get to a park and get to the main upper level areas, they were all very rude. They would tell you to turn the camera off. We would. Then they took us to the back and again threatened us with fines for having a camera in the park. And I said, well, I see cameras everywhere. And they said, well, you're a professional, aren't you? And I said, well, not really. I guess I am. And then what kind of weirdos are you? Got me back in the office, called more of them back there. I got threatened to be arrested at 2 places, and you just saw how polite I was. And then they thought that I had a bug hidden on me or something and wouldn't even hardly talk to me back there. They'd all been advised about dangerous people asking questions. They acted like a military encampment. It was very, very strange. Someone had prepared them. Despite the administration not being very helpful, we did locate the UN signs, both the International Biosphere and the World Heritage Site. Y'all are the owners. I mean, we bought into this whole federal government type deal, and now they're telling us that we can't even use what we supposedly own?
Well, I don't know. I'd rather...
Yeah. Turns this over to the United Nations, and they got a plaque down at the main central office. It'd probably be easier just not to think about it.
How come they didn't start you in the conspiracy theory?
It's not a conspiracy theory. There's a bronze plaque right up there, ma'am. You see that right there? They talk about a Hollywood movie rather than the bronze plaque in the executive order. That is what's wrong with America, ladies and gentlemen. People have been taught, bred from a foot tall, absolutely not to care, while they're being raided by the government, which is controlled by corrupt corporations. And when I say that, I mean the top 20. What people think is rich is a joke in this country. They think a nice house and a nice car is wealthy. And that's why it's so easy for the establishment to manipulate people. You notice the well-informed people would talk to us and knew of the executive orders, only a few. And they're probably the people who've actually done well economically because they were able to sift through the lies. But the rest of America seems to love being conned. It's like they get into being lied to, and they get an incredible thrill out of the whole thing. That is painful to me. That's why I'll continue to make these documentaries. I will continue to rant and rave on the radio about factual information. And if people don't have the inner strength to rise up to a threat, foreign or domestic, and stand up for U.S. sovereignty, then I feel really, really sorry for them. Because that's where we are in America today. We are under siege. We're losing our property rights as we speak.
The globalists have controlled the mainstream media for a long time, but now they're expanding and making the weaponization even more vicious and deceptive. All the major networks are state-run.
We are partnering this year with the NFL.
The NFL has become a political weapon against the Second Amendment and pushes Obamacare. MSNBC tells us that our children belong to the state.
We have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
It is more important than ever to realize that we are not the alternative media. We are the true media. The establishment dinosaur press is dying.
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
Join us at InfoWarsNews.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. Members can share their memberships with up to 11 people. By subscribing, you will literally be buying war bonds in the info war to expand our operation in the face of the tyrants. Join us at PrisonPlanet.tv.